Welcome to Speak of the Devils, the premier podcast for Sun Devil football. I'm Brad Denny with 3TV.
And I'm Joe Healy with devilsdigest.com.
All right, Joe, we are here at 3TV CBS 5 up in the podcast studio. A lot of cool new toys at our disposal, some bells and whistles, some graphical flair. We're bringing it all together because this is a really special episode that we've been working on to put together for a couple months. I think it's going to be worth the wait because today we're having a series of great conversations and taking a real deep dive into one family's incredible Sun Devil legacy.
Yeah, we are fired up for this one. We got something special for our listeners and now our viewers, because not only do you get to hear our wonderful voices, you get to see our lovely faces and those of our guests as well. We're going to be talking with the Rashada family empire, starting with Harlen Rashada, who played for Arizona State in the 1990s under Bruce Snyder, and now his sons, Jaden and Roman, who will be starting their Sun Devil careers this fall. We've got a lot to talk about. We're going to take a deep dive. We're going to get to know these people as human beings, as football players. We're going to talk about the family impact that they want to have on Arizona State. There is a lot that we're going to cover. Trust me, you're going to love it. Joining us first, one of the most decorated quarterback recruits in the history of Sun Devil football, continuing the family legacy of the Rashada family. Jaden Rashada. Jaden, thank you so much for joining us.
No problem. Thank you guys for having me.
So you've been in Tempe full-time here for a few months. Obviously, you're no stranger to this area, but what's it been like living in the Tempe area, being a Sun Devil, being an ASU student for these last few months?
Yeah. So I was a bit familiar with the area before, just because this is a place I've been a couple times, and but honestly, like, just as far as me acclimating has been, more than I can ask for. I've been loving every second of it. We got a pretty good team, not much egos on our team at all. Everybody's just, trying to get better and just trying to win.
So after what's been like kind of that whirlwind period near the end of last year, and then ultimately landing at Arizona State, what's it just been like for you to just being able to have the ability to just kind of focus on football, starting college life, adapting to, the next chapter of your life after kind of all that chaos?
Yeah, it's been such a blessing because it was something that I prayed on a long time, and just me wanting to just get back to my main focus and just working hard and, keeping the main thing.
So the recruiting process for you, chaotic to say the least. As you look back at it, what were some of the most important life lessons you learned? What did you learn about yourself as you went through that whole process?
Yeah, I learned a lot about myself. Probably one of the most life-changing years that I've had so far. I'm still young, but I took a lot from it. And I say just what I probably took from it was just just read people. If you see the real in people, then just trust them. And a big thing that I learned was trust. Obviously, that was a big thing that I've learned in my recruitment. But I'm really just glad things. I'm here now. I'm grateful to be here with a great coaching staff and a great team.
So after the Florida situation, obviously the national discourse was kind of running hot. A lot of fans out there on social media, message boards, and all that had lots to say. Just how did you kind of react to just kind of all that external noise? And when at that time you're just trying to find the right program and find the right place to continue your football career.
Yeah, I understand there's a lot of, emotional fans out there and stuff like that. That just comes with, being in the position I'm in. So I never reacted to it, just kind of took the bullet for whatever was thrown my way. No matter, what it was, I just always remained myself. And that's something I'm, happy I did. Didn't really give anybody a reaction that they were looking for. I just remained myself, and that was a big thing with me, just keeping yourself throughout chaotic situations like that.
So walk our listeners through the re-recruitment process, as it were. You get your release from Florida, you're back on the market. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of schools coming after you. How did you kind of navigate through the flood of those schools coming after you? What were some of the things that you were looking for, and ultimately why Arizona State was the choice for you?
Yeah, I was just looking for a place that meant a lot to me, and somewhere where I can come in and focus on football and focus on my life. And this was obviously, a lot of people know how much this means to me. I was pretty familiar with the program. My dad played here, and, I get to come here and play with my brother. So, family, that was a big thing with me, just feeling part of a family. And, you know, it was such a blessing to be able to, you know, finally have peace with my decision and be able to focus on football.
And talking about being at peace with that decision,
Mhm.
when you signed that letter of intent to attend ASU, the recruitment process was over,
Mhm.
and you can just look ahead to playing ball. How did
Yeah.
you feel in that moment? What was that sigh of relief like at that time?
Yeah. It was just more so like an eye opener, like, you know, it's time to get to work, you know, it's time to prove a lot of people wrong and prove myself right. So that's kind of how I looked at that situation, and it helped me regroup and refocus. And yeah.
Kenny Dillingham mentioned that when you were a kid that you drew a picture of yourself, you know, playing for the Sun Devils
Yeah.
one day. What's it mean to continue that kind of the lineage of the Rashada family in maroon and gold? And, you know, was that how much of that legacy, you know, you mentioned there's a few other reasons why you chose ASU, but how much was that ability and that opportunity to continue that legacy a factor for you and ultimately deciding to go to ASU?
Yeah. It was a pretty big factor. You know, I'd be lying if I said it wasn't. That was a huge factor with me. I know that picture that I drew up, it was like a pitchfork with the number 5, and you know, obviously because my dad played here and stuff, and it was like a gift I gave. It was a long time. I didn't even know he still had it. But yeah, he ended up keeping it, and I seen it, and you know, obviously that meant, you know, a lot to him, you know. So man, it was just a decision that I had to make. You know, it meant a lot to me, so I just took it and ran with it.
So now, with everything that you've gone through, does that give you any extra motivation, maybe even like a chip on your shoulder to go out and be the absolute best? Not that you wouldn't anyway, but is it a
Yeah.
little extra motivation for you for your football career?
Yeah, 100%. You know, that's something I think about every day. You know, just, you know, I never really forget things. I just kind of keep a storage in my head about things in the past. I don't think about them in a negative way, you know, just try to keep that as a positive thing to push me and keep working hard. And like I said earlier, you know, like prove myself right, you know, and prove a lot of people wrong. But you know, that's a big thing that goes into my motivation. And it was definitely something that was a humbling experience where I had to, you know, look myself in the mirror and really had to figure out what I wanted to get out of this situation and what I want to accomplish in college football.
Now, you've previously announced a partnership with a local bicycle shop, and you know, since arriving in Tempe, and kind of given your experience and just your stature as just a well-known quarterback, what's your view on NIL and its place in college athletics, and you know, how has your experience kind of shaped your view through that process?
Yeah, see, my experience probably would be different than a lot of other people. So, um, you know, how I look at NIL, it could definitely help a lot of kids, and it definitely is helping a lot of you know, people around college football and sports in general, you know. So I definitely think NIL is a great thing. You know, I think if it's used in the right way, NIL is definitely something that athletes deserve to capitalize on their name. And yeah, I definitely think it's a good thing, and as long as it's done the right way.
You know, going through the process, you know, the ups and downs that you went through, and kind of the chaos, ultimately, you know, landing at the right place for you. What would be your advice to, you know, other future high profile recruits, you know, people that, you know, might have dollars thrown at them, or just, you know, a lot of schools going, just the stress of, you know, just ultimately trying to find the best place to continue the next chapter of your life?
Yeah. I would say like the most important thing that I got out of it, and I didn't know till I got here, was how important it is to find your fit. You know, a lot of kids, they get recruited, you know, highly and think they have to go to those schools, or, you know, think it's too hard to pass up that opportunity. But my advice to them would just be, you know, go somewhere where you could be yourself, you know, and work your hardest, and wherever the place is that fits you the best, in my opinion, you know, that'll make your adjustment to college way easier.
When Kenny Dillingham was hired for ASU last November, the energy around here went through the roof.
Mm.
What makes him the college coach for you to play for?
In my opinion, he's the same guy recruiting you as he is coaching you. You know, his offense is, you know, quarterback, receiver, like his offense is pretty crazy. So I think that's a big thing. Why my trust was put into him, just as how he's proven himself as an offensive coordinator, and now he's a head coach. And most importantly, he gets his players to play for him, you know, and everybody on the team will tell you he's the same dude recruiting you as he is coaching you. So I think that's what makes Coach Dilly pretty elite.
All right, so let's get a little technical now. Let's what really kind of stands out when you look at the playbook and the Dillingham, Bo Baldwin offense. From a quarterback's perspective, it seems watching spring, it seemed like you guys, it was kind of like almost the quarterback's a point guard. You have so many playmakers out there. Get that ball out in under like 3 seconds, 2.5 seconds. How do you feel about your command, about the offense, and what things really kind of jump out to you about why Dillingham has a reputation of being so quarterback friendly as a coach and as an offensive schemer?
Yeah. He's a super good instructor, especially with the quarterback position. So he's always, a big thing is, just playing the next play, getting, can't go broke by taking profit, and, super technical with that, get the ball out, as you guys know. But yeah, that's my opinion on that.
Tell us about your relationship with offensive coordinator Bo Baldwin.
Yeah.
What do you like about him so far? How are you guys bonding?
Me and Coach Baldwin are doing pretty well. He's another coach that was the same recruiting as he is a coach, and that's all you can ask for, really. And from there, it's in your hands, to take as much information as you can from him and learn as much as you can from him. And he's done a good job, just coaching, and he's been a real good teacher, to all us quarterbacks in the room, especially me being a true freshman, coming in there. Obviously, I had no clue about anything that was going on offensive wise. So he came in and he's been doing a real good job, teaching me the whole scheme and being patient with me and kind of taking me under the wing and showing me the whole ins and outs of the offense.
All right. So before we go and talk about the future ahead, I want to go back to in the past to the Jaden origin story. How did you initially get into football? Was it kind of just your dad getting you into the game and following your dad's footsteps? And ultimately, how did you kind of find your way to the quarterback position? And also, do you remember your first touchdown pass?
Ooh. Yeah, I do. I think it was against a team called like the San Ramon T-Birds, but I've always I've always been around the game. I grew up watching my older brother play and my dad coaching, and I was always on the sideline, with a couple of my friends, at the games, and it was just something I always wanted to do. I don't think it was anything that was forced on me at all. And I didn't know I was a quarterback. My first football coach ever, Joseph Garanya, I played for the East County Lions, and that's when he went and told my dad, like, yeah, I think he's going to play quarterback. But I wanted to play running back because I was a little kid and I knew they touched the ball every play. But I always wanted the ball in my hands. And he introduced me to the quarterback position. And I was super young, probably like 6 or 7 years old. So, it wasn't much throwing going on then. But, it was like when I played quarterback, I definitely didn't want to play any other position besides safety.
Safety. Okay.
Yeah.
Playing a little Roman with the DB there. Okay. When did you know that you had a chance that you were good enough to perhaps, play at the next level and perhaps beyond?
Well, football was just something I always had fun with. And I always had big dreams and, being the highly recruited guy and being an All-American in high school. I always looked up to those guys when I was younger. And, I really didn't know that how my career was going to go until my 8th grade year. That's kind of when I had a decent amount of separation. And that was actually when I got my first offer too from San Jose State. And really that day was probably like, oh shoot, I might end up pretty good. But that was definitely I didn't know what I was walking into my 8th grade year. I was just playing the game, and then when that happened in the 8th grade, that was kind of when I was like, all right.
So for anyone who hasn't seen your film or who didn't see you play in high school, what type of QB are you? Tell us about your game. What are your greatest strengths?
I think that's something that more so my film would tell you. But
it's hard to brag about yourself a little bit.
Yeah,
it's okay.
The numbers speak for themselves. All those numbers you put up.
Yeah, I would say just I like to stretch the ball downfield. That's one of my favorite things to do, and that's that's one of my favorite things to do is stretch the ball downfield and distribute the ball to all my receivers, not just one guy or two guys. Like I'd like to distribute the ball all over the field. And I'd like to stretch the ball downfield and yeah.
So obviously you're a guy that can hurt teams with the arm, stretching that ball down the field or with your legs, but it does seem like you're kind of that pass first quarterback rather than just, taking off at the first sign of pressure and using that mobility to kind of buy more time for your receivers. How do you kind of balance that, that in the pocket when you're in the middle of a play, you got the defenders bearing down on you, but you know that you use the time to kind of make that play work. How do you kind of like balance that kind of knowing the ability that you can take off and run versus kind of making the sticking in there for just that extra half second or so to make the play down the field.
Yeah. I think that's pretty important, being able to execute under pressure, and that always makes or breaks a quarterback. And honestly, that's something I enjoy doing, just making plays, especially when dudes are in your face, because after that, then it's like, then what do you do, so I think that's kind of my approach to that. And I kind of, I don't like to leave the pocket, but I will if I have to. And I like staying in there and I like staying in there and completing passes.
Is the has the coaching staff like talked to you? Because I know the last staff had a thing with with Jaden Daniels of just like they really did not like him running or like just no one to get down. Have they talked to you about maybe curtailing the running aspect, or are they just letting you kind of go out there and let it play?
Yeah, no, you're just out there and go make plays. They haven't really told us that we can't run the ball or none of that. They're aware of us extending plays and being a quarterback.
So, of course, you got to campus in time for spring ball. Talk about that experience. How would you evaluate your performance in the spring, and what sort of goals did you and maybe the staff have for you for the offseason?
Yeah. A big thing with me was, obviously the playbook, learning the playbook. So I would say my biggest jump was not physically. It was like mentally. So like the playbook I've been learning every single day, so that's something that definitely has been, true freshman coming in spring ball. So that's a big deal, is the playbook, knowing what you're doing while you're out there. And, you learn something new every day. So that's something I actually been enjoying, just the small details of the game of football, because that's what you're exposed to in college. So that's something I've been enjoying and just going through the process with that.
And what sort of things have you been working on since spring ball to get ready for the season?
I've been working on everything, getting my weight up, getting more accurate, getting more power, getting more velocity on my ball. Like, I've been working on literally everything. I just feel that that's what I need to do for me to go and perform and be prepared.
So I was out there covering all the practices, and it seemed like, especially early on, that the coaching staff with a couple of veteran quarterbacks on the roster was kind of bringing you along slowly, and you were, as you mentioned, kind of taking a lot of the mental reps out there and kind of getting you allowing you to get acclimated and comfortable out there. With many other blue chip quarterbacks are often kind of thrown in the fire oftentimes before they're ready. How do you feel about this? The staff's kind of a patient approach for you, just kind of letting you come along and get comfortable.
Yeah. I appreciate it. They definitely have been patient with me and, been teaching me the playbook, been teaching me everything. So that's been a part of the process that I've been enjoying. Obviously I'm a competitor, so I want to be out there as much as possible. But when I'm not, in the meantime, I know there's a lot you can take mentally, from other people's reps and the whole offense, just being a student of the game.
So the 2023 season is coming up here pretty soon. What sort of goals and expectations do you have for yourself for this freshman year?
That just more so goes on what my role is during the season, and we'll see what that is. But definitely my goals are just to be a great teammate and be there for my team and just keep learning as much as possible and never not be prepared. I want to be prepared every week. Want to be prepared every day. So a big thing with me is just preparation and being there for my team, from the quarterbacks in the quarterback room to, the defensive, the whole defense. Just want to be there for my whole team that's a big goal for me as a individual, is to be there for my team and, just be prepared and get better every day.
You're one of the highest rated quarterbacks in the country and are widely viewed as the ASU's quarterback of the future and a lot of expectations. How much pressure do you feel from those views and kind of the external pressure expectations that come along with being as highly rated as you are? And how do you kind of manage, that pressure if you do feel a pressure?
Yeah. Well, I look at it as a blessing, pressure, a lot of people don't like it, but me, I look at it as a good thing, and honestly, I'm blessed to have that pressure because I'm sure a lot of kids would want that. But I don't really, it's not nothing that brings me down or makes me think that I have to perform this way. It's more so like, oh, I got these people who believe I can do this, so I'm going to go out there and do it. And honestly, it's nothing I look at negativity. It's not nothing I look at that I can't, that I can't like go about or pursue. But no, definitely is a blessing. I look at it as, got people counting on me, so I know not to let them down.
So there's a lot of talent in that quarterback room right now. How's that competition helped your development, and what sort of advice and guidance have you gotten from guys maybe like Trenton Bourget or Drew Pine who have starting experience at this level?
Yeah, just getting each other better every day. If I have questions, I'll ask them something. There's something I'm not really afraid to do, and but yeah, everybody in that room has been there for me, and we all have a pretty good bond in there, so that's been pretty solid.
How excited are you to play with your brother Roman in Tempe? And how much of a recruiter were you in getting him to Tempe, or is it just the opportunity it's a pretty straightforward move?
Yeah, I'm excited. I never got to play with a family member, so that was one of the biggest blessings coming here as well. Just little things like being in workouts, looking across the room and I get to see my brother. That's something that I never had the opportunity to do. So something that I definitely don't take for granted, and I learned a lot from him. So that's that's been I didn't really have to recruit him here either. We both know how much this place means to us. So it's kind of, just, man, like this was something we always dreamed of. So finally made it happen.
So it really seems like this new coaching staff has rejuvenated just the spirit and the energy. It looks like guys are having fun out there playing. It seems like the great sense of camaraderie, brotherhood among the players on the team. How have you been able to bond with your teammates since you got here earlier this year?
Yeah, man, it's been great. It really does feel like a family. I haven't been a part of a team like this, as far as a team bond like this, in a long time, in a super long time. So it's definitely been good, clicking with all my teammates, and everybody, offense, defense side of the ball, everybody comes together and, we're having fun every day. So
obviously you're just getting your college career started, but when your Sun Devil career is finished, what do you want to accomplish? How do you want to be remembered at Arizona State?
I just want to be remembered as, I want to go down as, one of the best quarterbacks to play here, and, I also want to go down as one of the best human beings, just being a great person, known as the guy who was always there for teammates and known as the guy who was, always, there for people. And I think that's a big thing with me is just, being a better person than you are an athlete. I think that'll take you a long way.
Kind of on that note, I mean, we've heard all about Jaden Rashada, the athlete. The world has heard the stories, but let's talk about Jaden Rashada, the guy, the person, the human being. What kind of interests do you have? Hobbies do you have? Have you picked a major? Just tell us a little bit about yourself as a person.
Yeah, I picked a major, interdisciplinary studies.
That's what I got my degree in.
Same here.
There we go.
Yeah.
All right, man.
Yeah, that's probably what I'll go with. And just as far as me as a person, I like I'll do. I don't know. I'll do whatever. I'll go. I like to fish. I haven't found much good spots out here. They go and Roman will go fish catching these bass that don't even weigh a pound. So y'all he might have to. I don't know. I can't do that. I don't like waiting in the water that long for that. But once I find a good fishing spot, I like fishing. Just like doing different things, I mean, Yeah, I don't really know. I don't know what I like doing. That's a good question. Most of the time, I just like playing Madden with some of my teammates or something. I had CJ and Ash over yesterday. We were just playing Madden and yeah, just like just chilling with some of the teammates, just having a good time.
The heat's not going to get you too much. You're probably used to that, all right?
Nah, I've been good. Honestly, it hasn't been as bad as I thought. Obviously,
Well, it's going to get worse.
Yeah,
This isn't the worst of it.
But it's not as bad as like, I think I'll be good.
Yeah, for sure.
Until those pads, until the pads come on or something like that.
There you go. There you go.
But nah, I'll be good. I'd rather deal with the heat than the cold any day of the week.
Hey, I'm with you right there, my friend.
Yeah.
Jaden, truly appreciate you, my man.
Appreciate you
awesome.
guys.
Really appreciate your time.
Thank you guys.
And also continuing the Rashada family legacy for Sun Devil football. Great story here, about to begin his Sun Devil career this fall. Roman Rashada. Roman, thank you for joining us, my friend.
Thank you guys. Appreciate you for having me.
So just doing a little research, learning about you, man. It seems like it's been a winding road for you the last several years. A couple high school stops, JUCO, Ole Miss last year, now Arizona State. After a lot of movement for you, how does it feel to be settled in as a Sun Devil?
It feels good. Feels good to be here with my brother. To finally be here, it feels like a place that like I've always wanted to be. So, for me, for us to finally be here is special. So.
Now, obviously, with your dad as an alum, Jaden coming to ASU, those are key reasons for you to become a Sun Devil. But aside from those factors, I mean, obviously, you got to make the best decision for yourself. What else motivated you to come to ASU?
Yeah, shoot, man, just the community really. Like I personally knew if I was playing for a logo, a school that had deeper meaning to me, then it would bring the best out of me. Also, Coach Ward is amazing. DC, his track record speaks for itself, and I think Coach Dillingham would do something special. So all that on top of, being able to play with my family and continue that tradition it's kind of a no-brainer. It'd be weird if I didn't take the opportunity.
Now, along those lines, how does it feel to not only continue your dad's legacy here, but to also do so alongside and in tandem with your brother?
It feels great. Really a dream come true. That's an understatement. But, like it's so real. Like it's one of those things where it's like you imagined it and you almost like believed it growing up. And like for our paths to just combine like the way it did, it's just truly unbelievable. Really God, really. So.
Now, obviously, you're going along with your career. You're at Ole Miss last year, but then you see your brother kind of at the center of everything that kind of went down. What is it like as the older brother, you kind of seeing your brother have to go through a situation like that?
That situation was unlike anything around the nation, anything that's ever happened. But at the end of the day, it's adversity. So just being a brother, to my little brother, making sure he makes the best decision possible for him, not what anybody else is saying, and just assisting him the best way I possibly could as a brother in a situation like that.
So going back a little bit to your coming here, I remember seeing on Twitter a screenshot of a text with Gene Boyd and you, and things all coming together. Tell us about that whole circumstance. That seemed like something.
Yeah. So Gene's dad and my dad, Gene Boyd, he's the athletic director, I believe. They went to college together, so we grew up kind of with little Gene, and I believe it was like it was towards the end of the season last year when I was still in Mississippi, and like I had a dream that we were playing together. And like I told him that, I was like, yo, it's crazy. Like I just had a dream that me, you, and Jaden, like we were at ASU somehow, some way. I don't know. And lo and behold, like it's, a couple months go by and that ended up being reality. So I think it was just kind of crazy how that came about. It's just a freak situation.
So tell us about your game. Where do you fit in best position wise with this defense? Tell us about Roman on the field.
Yeah, so I played free safety, strong safety, and corner when I was in junior college and high school too. In this offense, I fit well at the nickel. That's where I'll be playing this year. But ultimately, just establishing that versatility. I've played everywhere, so anywhere I could, help the team and just provide value and help us win. The most important thing is winning. So wherever that is, that's where I'll be. But as of now, the nickel is where I see myself best adding on to the talent we have on the back end.
Now, you mentioned earlier that Brian Ward, the new DC, is brought a lot of excitement, in this 4-2-5 scheme of his really seems to have the players fired up, very aggressive, at least compared to what ASU was running last year. A lot of moving parts. It's always kind of making the life hard for an offense. What really kind of jumps out to you about the schematic things that this defense likes to do, and some of the roles that the guys like in the secondary get to play in it?
His ability kind of to craft just make everybody stable. So the stability that he he makes everything simple, but really the pressure. I believe that where we will separate ourselves this year is creating that pressure up front. That'll just open up a whole new window for us on the back end. But I think Coach Ward does a phenomenal job at putting, his key front seven in situations where they're able to make big plays, and ultimately that just helps us on the back end.
So as a defensive back, you're the natural enemy of a quarterback. So what's your opposing scouting report on Jaden and what challenges he presents to a defense?
He's really talented, man. When he gets on fire, he has a way to where he could just keep rolling. And that's always the worst thing to deal with as a defensive back, is when a quarterback, can get in that zone and, get rolling, because there's nothing you can do really. But other than that, he can make throws that I haven't really, not just saying it, I haven't seen another quarterback being able to make, even in practice. Now, it's just, he's blessed.
So what drew you to Ole Miss last year, and what was that experience like playing there in the SEC?
Yeah, I didn't actually play. So last year I redshirted, but just being there from day one, that was my only SEC offer. I wanted to go to the highest pinnacle of college, football. I've always been competitive, so that was just my goal. I was just always compete at the highest level. I learned a lot, brought the best out of me as a human being, as a man. A lot of adversity, so I knew that was what I was getting into, and that's exactly why I chose it. But overall, just a great experience. I have really no complaints.
So now, how do you compare living and going to school in the Tempe area and ASU compared to what life was like in Oxford?
Similar, very different, but similar also. Both college towns. You got the same experience, but it's like two different worlds, so it's like down south, I would kind of say, in terms of the Pac-12, almost like ASU is almost like the Ole Miss of the Pac-12 in terms of the structure of the school and the traditions and stuff. It's a lot of similarities that I see, but just living down south, I loved it. I've always wanted to live down south, so an opportunity to go down there and play football and live down there was amazing. Met a lot of amazing people, and a lot of amazing memories that I'll hold on, until the day I die.
Now, obviously, you guys are in the middle of the offseason strength and conditioning program, getting those workouts in preparation for fall camp here in a little bit. What have been your personal areas of focus and things that you've been working on to get yourself ready for fall camp and the first fall camp as a Sun Devil?
Just being mentally prepared, putting in excessive hours into that playbook, just trying to get to a point where it's second nature. That's really been my emphasis. The physical aspect of it, that'll all come, with repetition, but ultimately trying to be dialed into this new scheme and just being able to, be reliable in that way.
What are your goals for this upcoming 2023 season?
To win. I don't want to lose. I don't like losing. So that's I want us to win as much as possible. So if we got to break habits, if it's certain habits that we got to keep going, that is the ultimate goal is to win. So
tell us about Kenny Dillingham, your experience with him. What makes him the coach that you want to play for your college ball?
He has a different way of bonding with the players. He's obviously a little bit younger for a head coach. That has no reflection on his smarts. He's always in our meetings, in our DB meetings, with Coach Ward, and you kind of just have a chance to see how he digests information, and you could tell he's just a very smart dude. But he just going back, he has a different way of bonding with the players. And I think that's what gives him leverage as a coach. And I think it's just the start of a long career for him as a successful coach.
Yeah, I saw him doing like magic card tricks and stuff like that
Yeah.
with guys. Like, it's next level stuff.
Yeah.
So we want to get to know about you as a human being. First and foremost, little brother over there was throwing some major shade about your fishing. So let's give you the chance to rebuttal. Is what he's saying true about your skills as a fisherman?
Look, I got proof in my phone. That's all I gotta say. He obviously never goes because he knows he'll have no luck. So, I mean, I hold the title right now for the biggest fish in Arizona in our family.
Okay,
it's just it's about, I think it was a 3-pounder or something. But this guy never goes because he knows he'll never have luck. So I be racking him in.
You got to get a championship belt for you there.
Yeah, 100%.
So kind of like we were talking about with Jaden. I mean, we've heard a lot about you as an athlete. Tell us about you as a person. You were telling us before you started recording that you're going to be starting marketing. Tell us about that, what the future holds for you in that regard once football's done. Just tell us about the Roman Rashada, the guy.
Yeah, I just try to be where my feet are at this point in my life. I just very detail orientated. I'm trying to just continuously get better as who I am as a young man, and just be a good son, a good brother, but also just be just continue to excel in the career that I'm in, whether that be football or, the material that I'm studying marketing for school, even doing internships, just progressively like getting better is my main focus. So I'm just football and career orientated is who I am. And then I like to fish and destroy my family.
Right. What is it about the marketing field that appeals to you? Do you have any ideas of what you might want to do with that career-wise when that time comes?
Yeah, just brand development has always intrigued me, like being able to like build something and like kind of just be a part of like this vision and put it into life in terms of like a product or even a company, just standing for something like beyond what the actual physical product is. So I would say brand development, that's always been intriguing to me.
Perfect. Roman, we truly appreciate you. We'll see how the story develops as time goes on. Who can, if you keep the championship belt for fishing and all that. But for now, my friend, truly appreciate you taking some time for us.
Thank you, guys.
Joining us now, the patriarch of the Rashada family dynasty at Arizona State University. He played for the Sun Devils in the 1990s under the late head coach Bruce Snyder. Harlen Rashada, my man, thank you so much for joining us.
Right on, Joe. Appreciate you having me.
All right, Harlen. So we got to get to the big stuff right off the bat. The nickname Shark. There's some. We asked your boys about the origin there, and they were definitely threw it back. You got to ask him. So sounds like there might be a fun story there. So how did the Shark nickname come to you?
No, it's really not that deep. I mean, to be honest, like I had that nickname since I think like the 8th grade. There was a friend of mine who he just gave me that name. He just called me Shark. And, the funny part was it just kind of stuck. And then football wise, like 8th grade, 9th grade, I was playing against all these guys. It stuck on the field. And it carried with me ever since 8th grade, all the way through high school and through college. And, everybody was like, what does it mean? And it really wasn't some big crazy deal, but it did kind of, it carried over into football.
You didn't go like cool. Out in the ocean and like
no,
punch a shark
I didn't.
In the face or something like that.
I didn't have like a shark fin, like stitched in the back of my jersey or some crazy deal like that. It was a nickname that just stuck.
It's kind of as a defender, you have some predatory instincts going after the ball.
It fits.
It did, man. I mean, I liked it. I loved the nickname. I mean, a lot of guys get nicknames they don't like. Right, I mean, it stuck. I think there was like a long time ago, there was like a DB in NFL, and he had the whole Shark nickname too, and he would do the thing with the fin and and all that kind of stuff. So I mean, it was a cool nickname. I mean, it's been all right for me. I'm not complaining. Could have called me something worse.
There you go, man. So let's talk about your experience as a Sun Devil playing again for the late Bruce Snyder, the 1990s. When you were going through your recruitment process, what made Tempe and ASU stand out to you, and why did you ultimately choose to become a Sun Devil?
Yeah, it was kind of crazy. I didn't go through anything like my sons did. My process was a little different, coming from Northern California. Bruce Snyder had just finished up what was actually a historical run at Cal. Donnie Henderson, who was just here recently under Herm, ironically, who was my DB coach at Arizona State, was also a DB coach at Cal, with Bruce Snyder. I think they finished like 4th in the country. And, me being from Northern California, that was like right in my backyard. I went to games. I watched these guys, just in dogfights playing UW, they just had a real good team. And Bruce Snyder, he kind of caught my attention. And when recruiting came along with me, I got recruited from some Pac-10 at the time schools, some good ones. And I remember when Donnie Henderson and Bruce and Coach Cazzetto at the time actually came to my high school. I respected what they did. I watched them at Cal. And then I saw a guy named Ray Sanders, who actually he came to ASU and worked for a minute with the program, but he actually played with Bruce under Donnie Henderson at Cal, and he went to Skyline High School, the school I went to. So there was a lot of familiarities, and of course there was some controversy with how he left Cal. That's a whole nother deal, but that was the first class that he brought to Arizona State. And I just kind of thought, ASU, when I took my trip down there and got to see the place, and I had a great visit. I thought the weather was cool. Obviously it was hot, but that didn't bother me. But we had a great visit. We stayed at the Point. They had the Playboy All-American festival deal at the Point when I was there. So that was a really mind-blowing deal to not just, for that aspect, but just you're in a building with like some of the top athletes in the country, All-American guys, and you're walking around, ice sculptures everywhere. And I was like, it was a really good
Do you remember some of the
trip.
guys who were out at that time?
Oh God, I remember the receiver guy. I think, was it Tamrick Vanover?
Okay.
I remember there was a big dude, Alexander. I think Warren Sapp, I want to say, was one of those guys back then.
Right around that time, yeah.
I can't remember. It was just tons of guys, and I remember seeing them and just going, man, I had a real good time, and had a lot of respect for Bruce as a coach. I thought like, hey, he did that at Cal. I finished 4th in the country, beating Clemson that year, and I just figured, he's going to do the same thing at Arizona State, at some point. And that ended up being the case. We had a good run.
Yeah, you did. So contrary to what the internet will tell you, this guy actually played on the Rose Bowl team. There's some weird information there that says that you were here only a few years, but that's not necessarily. But that leads me into my next question. You were part of what has to be the most revered team in ASU history, that 1996 team that had a shot at a national championship. I was sitting in the stands as a teenager there at the Rose Bowl. I'm sure there are a lot, but what are some of your favorite memories? Maybe not necessarily just from that team, but from your time at ASU. What are some of your favorite memories?
There's so many. There's some good dudes, man, that I had the chance to play with that went out and did phenomenal things in the world that were bigger than football. Like Brian Wood, played fullback there. He was an employee, I want to say like number 2 with Under Armour.
Yeah, exactly.
We wore the prototypes. I remember them passing out. I remember them passing out the maroon shirts, stretchy, and we're like, what is this stuff? And I'm like, I like it. And you end up finding out those are prototypes for Under Armour. But Pat, obviously playing with Pat, and his whole story, and knowing the kind of guy he was, like in the locker room and around people, and coming to my house and watching fights with us and the conversations we would have. He was a NorCal guy too, so we had a good connection. But just some good dudes, good people. I'd probably say, like, for me, the biggest part of that year that I really remember was that stuck with me for years was there was a point in there where, like, and I think this has to happen in any program, where the players have to want it more than the coaches. And I remember we were getting ready to play Nebraska, and if you know the history, Nebraska like beat the socks off of us, like, every year, from my freshman year.
I remember 77-28 the year before out there. Yeah.
You remember Bruce didn't even shake his hand. It was like all on ESPN. It was like a bad blooded deal, and not for any other reason that they just beat the socks off of us, and they were good, but so we came to play the Nebraska game, which was, very monumental, I felt like, in that season, when everything turned around. But any of the guys that were seniors on that team would tell you, we had a senior meeting, and we're in a hotel, and the players just called it, and we were like, hey, we kind of felt like nobody really thought we could beat Nebraska, and Phil Snow, who was our DC at the time, he's still coaching. He was phenomenal. And Phil was the one guy I felt like that was like, hey, if we play the scheme right, we're going to win this game, and I believe that. And I think a lot of guys believed it, but I don't know if everybody thought we could really beat Nebraska the way we did. So fast forward, we have this meeting, and the players are kind of like, hey, I kind of feel like, people don't think we're going to win this game, and there was a point in there, a guy named Pat Thompson, and it's hilarious. Actually, he got up and he just, grabbed a chair and like threw it across the room.
We've heard about Derek Smith.
Yeah.
Getting pretty well.
Steve Smith, all those guys. So, but Pat threw the chair. I watched him do it. He was actually my roommate my freshman year. He threw the chair. And I'm like, this guy threw the chair in the hotel.
And he was a big dude.
He was a big dude, man. He tossed the chair and everybody's like, that's it, and it just went crazy. We're like, we're going to win this game. And I think, honestly, at that point, obviously 19-0, I want to say. We shut them out.
That's what it was.
First time. They tore down the goalpost, took it all down Mill Avenue.
I was on the field.
Right.
Yep. 14-year-old me. Yep.
Yeah, I think that was the turning point in the season where the players took over. Yeah. And not so much you take over, but like I said, you have to want it more, than your coaches want it for you. It's you play the game. So I think there was a different degree of accountability with everybody. And we had a lot of good chemistry on that team, some high profile guys, but really like more like a blue collar kind of team that, came together. But even when you say that, you go, guys play their stock up, so you look at like Jeremy Stott and Sueda and, all the guys. We had Terry Battle stepping in for Mike Martin, putting up 1,000 yards. We had good young receivers, Lindsey Jacksons, Mitchells. Keith Poole was phenomenal. Him and Jake had a great connection.
Derek Rogers playing out of his mind.
Derek Rogers, who really had only played like 1 year of football.
Yeah, the story is something else. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I watched him come in and he would he'd do drills with he had like these gloves he would wear. They were like gardener gloves. They weren't even like football gloves. And he would come out there with a beanie on in 118 degrees and he'd be doing drills and motor. Nonstop motor. So, I mean, there were some phenomenal dudes, but that one moment where we kind of just, we believed, what I mean? Like, you got to believe, man. And if you don't believe and your coaches want it more than you, it ain't going to happen, So that always stuck with me. And even as a coach with my kids, it was always, you have to instill, build that in your team to where they believe in you and then believe in themselves to go do, exactly what you coach them to do. So it stuck with me, that part of the 97 year was special, yeah.
So obviously you mentioned Pat Tillman, one of your teammates and a guy that you hung out with and got to know and went to war with. What is it like, his impact both on and off the field and the impact that he has had on your life and just the experience of knowing, ultimately what he went on to do?
Yeah. I talked to Pat for probably about an hour some years ago. I can't remember exactly when. Jake had a celebrity bowling tournament, and me and Pat were like the last ones there, and literally everybody's gone. Me and Pat are sitting there for like an hour, and we're just talking. And, of course, everybody took the whole story with Pat, and there was all these different directions that went, but the conversation I had with Pat was, he kind of was thinking to himself, here I am at this age in my life. He was in between negotiations with his NFL contract per se. And I don't think he really agreed with what they were offering him. There was a degree of that in there, a little bit of dissatisfaction with, the NFL and how they handled him at that time, what he was going to do. But more so than that, I think he was thinking about, his family. He came from a long line of guys who served, and he was like, what have I really done for my country? And I was like, yeah, okay, I get it, and, he, a week later, I remember looking up and they were like, he's like, Pat Tillman, turns down NFL millions and he, Army Rangers, And I was like, wow, I didn't see that happening, but it made sense with the conversation we had and where his mindset was. But just knowing Pat, man, he was a different guy, but a dude's dude. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, the long hair and all that stuff. Everybody identifies with the outside kind of, played kind of wild, you know what I mean? And, he'd tackle and spin around and pop up, and the hair's blowing everywhere.
I remember him
and,
cussing in post-game interviews.
Yeah,
and all
man,
that.
he was that dude. I mean, I remember he told Bruce Snyder, like, this was the whole thing with the players. He was like, well, you got to play me now because I got stuff to do, for a lack of better words.
I think that's like a title, like I got things to do with my life.
Right.
Like a theme, yeah.
Yeah, and then, we were like, who says that coming in, but he was a different guy, man. He really was. We had a lot of respect for Pat, even as a freshman when he came in, and of course the whole story behind him. If you really know him, a lot of the guys go, he was such a humble guy. He probably wouldn't want, everything that he's been given and honored as, but he definitely is deserving of it. So that's probably it with Pat.
So everybody remembers that magical Rose Bowl season in '96, but not everybody remembers that the years leading up to that were pretty difficult.
Yeah.
How did this program go from 3-8 in 1994 to nearly a national championship just 2 years later? Because I think that's inspiring that, the players of this team now, given the struggles of last year, can maybe look to.
Yeah. Kind of looking back on that, like I'm thinking of the major players on that team, even remembering when Jake came in. Being a young guy and getting an opportunity. I think I remember his first touchdown pass to, I think it was Carlos Artis.
I think that's right.
I
think that's right.
Even seeing Keith Poole, just seeing Keith out when he came in, he was this small kid, kind of pencil neck guy from, I think he's from NorCal too. I think he was Fresno area. And, watching how hard he worked and how much better he got over 4 years, guys really bought in and worked hard, but there were a lot of things I think that led up to that one season. It was special for good reason. Picking up guys like you said, Derek Rogers, Derek Smith, JUCO transfer, Scott Bondarahi. We had a culture there, that kind of centered off of the one at a time thing with Bruce Snyder. And in my opinion, I think that guys bought in. We accumulated the right talent, and I give our coaching staff a ton of credit for that. I think a lot of people don't realize how good the guys we had that came through the building were at that time. We had Hugh Jackson here at one point coaching running backs. We had, like I said, Phil Snow, Setensich,
Petrino and Marks.
Petrino. Oh God, who's my guy? Dallas Cowboys. He was Bruce's assistant, Coach D-Line. Tons of guys that came through here, that ended up going out and being head coaches or having illustrious careers when they got through at Arizona State. Carl Durrell, you name it. I mean, just so when I look back on that, we built the culture, and the talent was there to build a culture, but there was also good leadership. There was good coaching there, So, when you looked up, 4 years later, we had a group of guys that really had gelled, and like some of the things the younger guys are talking about, coming together, offense and defense, not having things be separate. We would all hang out together. We really would. We watch fights. We had a lot of team bonding, and when the smoke cleared, man, that 1 year was just really special. Everything fell in place, so that's the best way I could put that one. It was just a accumulation of good talent and coaching, and it's a little different now. I mean, guys come in and, you're going to spend 5 years with a guy,
Sure.
The portal and all these things now, I can only imagine the challenges these guys have, to create that, but it can be done, and it is being done, but it's a different game.
So you're talking about the coaching staff. What impact did Bruce Snyder and all the ones that you mentioned there have, not just on you as a player during your time at ASU, but the rest of your life?
I always, one at a time always stuck with me, and that was one of our themes, but I think as men, when you're a young man and you come to college, you're growing up here. You're learning a lot. I made a lot of mistakes in college. I had a lot of good things that happened here, but you learn a lot of things as well while you're in college about yourself. They're not going to do everything right all the time, but do you have men around you that can, speak to you and continue to guide you and continue to develop you, not just as athletes, but as young men? And I think having some of those guys around me, I know they helped me. I know they helped a lot of guys that came to Arizona State. And that I always felt like ASU was a place where I grew up, a lot, so, a lot of respect for Arizona State in my experience here,
So, of course, ASU hasn't been back to a Rose Bowl since you were on the roster. The sleeping giant tag has been around for decades at this point. What do you think needs to finally happen to get Sun Devil football back to or being able to reach its potential? And, especially in a situation where you have your sons on the roster and is a potential part of that solution.
Yeah. That's a great question, to be honest, and you'll probably get different answers when you talk to different guys. In my opinion, it's just a different beast right now. Obviously you have to, the name of the game is talent acquisition and retention. And I think that's slowly becoming more prevalent in college. I mean, it's an NFL type theme now in college, where you got the portal now. Some guy may be here, and 2 years from now, he may not be, and you're replacing and you're constantly trying to build chemistry and establish those things. But I think, in my honest opinion, I think it starts with the mentality of the coaching staff. I think we have the right direction, so to speak. Dillingham, he's a young guy. He's got a lot of young, hungry guys on his staff. I've had the opportunity to meet a lot of those guys. And
Vince Amy.
Yeah, Vince. Vince is a little throwback. He's a throwback. Yeah. But yeah, they got some young guys that are hungry. And that it's going to take some of that, but you got to get it right with the talent too. Let's face it. You can coach all day, but you're going to need talent to go win out here. And how you do that and how you sustain that, there's a lot of moving parts in that thing. We can't talk about it without talking about, obviously, NIL. You have to have those things in place. And you have to literally be able to manage a roster in a whole different way than anybody has probably been asked to do in college football ever. So it's a constantly moving thing, and it's challenging, but I think we can get back there. I think that utilizing the portal, is going to be crucial. And recruiting guys that can grow, not necessarily everybody doesn't have to be a 4 or 5 star guy, but there's tons of guys out there who can play football. They just need an opportunity, and you have to see that in them and develop them. So, I think if we get all of that stuff kind of lined up the right way, and I think we're headed that way, that one of the beautiful things right now is it can change now. You can spend a year or two with the program. If you make the right moves, you establish things right. Your whole program could look different, so there are a lot of benefits now to, how things are set up to where you can, build that faster, than it would take necessarily for a 5-year program, shuffling guys. And so it's challenging, but I think we can do it for sure here. Arizona State for one thing, it's a great place to live, outside of everything else. It's a great school, great place to live. And I think that's really important when you get into recruiting. Recruiting is crucial. But I think we have a lot of things lined up to get talent and keep talent. And I think we always are going to be an attractive place. We just have to be aggressive in selling Arizona State, and the culture that we're trying to build,
So how do you even put into words, comparing what you went through as a student athlete in the 90s to what you're seeing now with your sons and experiencing as a father? These are like apples and oranges, different universes now. How do you even compare those two things?
Well, you're talking about just how do I compare it in general? Just
just
experience?
What's it like when you think back when you were playing and what you went through versus what these kids are going through now, for better or for worse?
Yeah, I'd say for worse, and I'll say this. I think one of the beautiful things about the way the whole process happened, and I'm thankful and blessed, that my sons did get to come to Arizona State, is that I know it does mean a lot for them here. And I think sometimes, with the portal and all these other elements and, just the nature of the game today, that some of that can get lost. You got kids that can move around for financial reasons. You got kids that can move around because, the game, the school may not mean anything to them, and they're just looking for a selfish opportunity. There's all kind of different aspects of it. But I mean, ultimately, you just, the whole process now is much more challenging, for kids to really dive in and have what's a home, and I think that's a difficult part of, college football right now, is because there's so much movement, For me, it wasn't that way. I came to Arizona State and this is where I was going to be. And, back then when you transferred, you sit out a year. People didn't want to do that, so that wasn't the case. But I think just the attachment, to the game and to the school is a little different right now. And there's some kids out there who are, just playing for the love of the game. And, but there's that other element that they have to fight against too. It's a different world right now,
So obviously, in the grand scheme, like the time suiting up in the maroon and gold and getting out there on the field is relatively fleeting. But overall, in terms of the life impact, what has being part of the greater Sun Devil community meant for you and your life?
This has always been a place I've like I said, I grew up a lot at Arizona State, and I got to spend 6 years here before I left and went back to California. This has always been, what I consider like my college home, and these guys probably didn't have a choice because every Saturday, games are on and I'm nachos ready. I got my ASU gear on. This went on for years. So that's how it was like in our home. I mean, I'm maroon and gold, so you can look at my social media. You can see I go all the way back. It never stopped. So I think for me, I've been fortunate enough that I played here and I played with some guys that still stuck around the program and made some good relationships here. I always managed to get back, and go to games, and, it's always good to see guys. So, there's a part of Arizona State that, I identify with as, part of my youth. And then there's another part of it that also I identify with, is that helped me grow, a lot, so, I think we have a great community down here. There's a lot of opportunity. You look how fast the city's growing. It's kind of funny because when I came back down here now, there's so much development right now. I'm like, I don't even recognize half of the city anymore. I'm
can
like,
say that from like a year ago,
right?
Much less, decades.
Right. I'm living down in Gilbert, and I'm like, there used to be nothing here. And you look up, and there's like, full communities. So it's beautiful to see the growth down here. And a lot of people are leaving and coming here, and from different states. I mean, I'm one of them. Coming from California, we just moved down here about a month and a half ago. So. It's a beautiful place to be, man. You know what I mean? It's a good place to be.
So when this season gets underway, what's it going to feel like? How proud are you going to be when you see your sons running out Tillman Tunnel, named for that teammate of yours, running around that statue for Pat Tillman, wearing the maroon and gold, Jaden rocking the number 5 like you. Like, what do you think that's going to be like in that moment?
I mean, I'm proud of the journey with them. I know what they all had to go through to get where they are, and it hasn't been easy, man. We weren't born with a silver spoon in our mouths, and we've had to grind, these kids have been through a lot of adversity, and it is going to be surreal, like to see that. It already kind of has been for me. I can imagine forward what that's going to be like. But it's not about me, this is their time and their experience, and I'm proud of them. I would be proud of them regardless, but it does mean, a little bit more to see them come out with that maroon and gold, man. And, I'm gonna be fired up, and I'm excited, man. I mean, they do the countdown deal on the internet, it's like 79 days, 80 days. And I'm counting down and liking like everybody else. I'm ready for this deal to happen, and it's an interesting year because I've seen all the tenures, I mean, I've been following since Bruce.
Sure.
And I've seen a lot of coaches come and go, man, but we'll see. I'm very optimistic about what this team can do and what Dillingham's era is going to look like. And I think they got a lot of new faces around the program. I think they're going to be hungry. And there's such an element of the unknown, so that brings excitement too. Let's see what we got. Let's get out here and put it out there and let's go. So I'm excited for these guys, man. I'm excited for the program. We didn't always have, he went through his recruitment process. Arizona State was always, that was always like a school he thought of, Obviously, there were some things that slowed down that process, In comes Dillingham. The timing was right. But we've always been connected to the program, So I'm excited for the program and the new direction and where they go from now,
So now we're going to talk with the men of the Rashada family that are joining us here. We're going to get them all here. Harlen, we're going to start with you. If 1 year ago I'd have told you that we'd be here in Phoenix talking about you living in Arizona, your boys about to get ready to play for Arizona State. If we were talking about that in July 2022, what would your reaction have been at that time?
Wow. I'd have probably been like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It was so much going on. Everybody's going in so many different directions, that for us to get here, there was some divine intervention and some things lining up the right way. And we were fortunate that way. So.
All right. So for Jaden and Roman, obviously you guys weren't here last season when ASU had some struggles and put together a pretty poor year. New era completely from almost top to bottom, a lot of new faces, yourselves included. How exciting is it for you to guys be kind of on the ground floor of potentially kind of getting ASU back to where it needs to be?
Honestly, it's just a part of the process that you have to enjoy. And, we all try to have that winning mindset. So everybody, it's new everything, obviously outside looking in, it's a new everything, new culture, new coaching staff, new players in there. So really, I just can't wait to get to the season and see how we react and just create that winning culture.
I would agree. I mean, similar, just habits, really. It's establishing winning habits. And like me and him, we understand that. So, just trying to establish those winning habits right now. That's what I would say.
So, Harlan, I know that Kenny Dillingham was pretty much the deciding factor with the boys coming here. Not necessarily from the perspective of a former college football player, but just from the father's perspective. What is it about Kenny Dillingham that makes you comfortable and trusting him with their development?
Now, you know what? When you go through the process, like the recruiting process, you get to know, the coaches, coordinators, head coaches, obviously along with your sons. And one thing I will say is, all the way back from, Kenny with the other school, we won't name the school anymore because he's a Sun Devil, but he really was a solid dude. Like we had some really good conversations, and he was literally like the reason why we went to the other school a few more times than probably he would have if he wasn't there. So I think with Kenny, man, there's some trust on my end. I think like anytime you go to quote unquote send your kid off to school, or your kid leaves to go to school, and we did that. I felt like I trusted, the hands I was leaving them in, and that was really important for me. And I can't say I felt that way with every, OC or head coach we ran into along the way, but I definitely felt that way with Kenny. So that part was cool, Now,
I kind of touched on a little bit earlier, but during the recruitment process for Jaden and all the things that kind of transpired in there, just all the external factors out there, then a lot of the noise that was going on, just how difficult was to kind of block out the noise? Obviously, you're trying to find your next spot, and you as your family is trying to support you in that process. Just for all of you guys, just how difficult was it to kind of focus on just the task at hand of finding the right place for you, amongst all the external noise and criticism?
Yeah. Honestly, it wasn't really that hard for me, because it was hard dealing with that kind of stuff, by myself, but it really wasn't hard keeping, staying the same and staying true to who I am, and letting everything else speak for itself. That was something I was kind of prepared for. And like I mentioned earlier, just staying calm under chaotic situations. So it wasn't really that hard for me. I had a great support system. I had my family who had my back through it all. And, I had great people who were there for me and made sure I was good, mentally, and just, staying motivated, and that's what it was. I had a great support system behind me, and really it was something that, I wasn't prepared for, but I easily adapted to it. And just a big thing with me, with situations like that is just remain yourself and, don't react emotionally.
What'd you think, bro?
This was mainly him and my dad going through this process, so I'll let them touch on it.
Well, I'll be brutally honest with you. I understand exactly what Jaden's saying. Was a part of that where I actually commended the way he, managed that situation. But then there was a difficult part of it for me, just being honest. There was a part of that where, and you got to understand, like with social media and all this kind of stuff, everybody's got an opinion, right? And everybody's writing a story with no merit that, people haven't talked to us, and so I'm watching people have their own interpretation of certain information. And at the end of the day, I know the kind of character my son has, and anybody around him, will tell you the kind of character he has. So anything for me, from a father, when you spend years, on the coaching developmental trail with all your kids and just being a father alone, period. And you have this window where, you feel like things are being misinterpreted or misunderstood. Yeah, there was a degree in that where that was difficult for me to understand, or not really understand, but just to accept. But there were times where he actually made me go, okay, my son's good, I'm good, and at the end of the day, the truth, will and always will prevail. And we know the reality of everything versus, what people want to say or anything like that. And I think that part was probably, there was good and bad in there,
So Harlen, what advice would you give to parents of elite recruits and recruits themselves when they go through this sort of process based on what you learned with Jaden?
I mean, to be honest, Jaden's situation was pretty unique. It was pretty rare. There was a lot of things that happened that made that what it was. But I just talked to a parent maybe a week ago, guy who's, and there are a lot of things now in the recruiting process that, kids, have to be aware of, parents have to be aware of now. And all I can speak from is from an elite recruiting, where this dude's one of the top quarterbacks in the country, one of the top recruits in the country. I mean, now it's different. You'll hear from every single agent in the country, you name it, guys that you wouldn't talk to probably, your junior year in college. Now these guys are talking to these guys their junior year in high school because of NIL and, different legislation now in different states and all that kind of stuff. And so it's a different process, for parents. And I think a lot of parents are overwhelmed and aren't prepared, for the quote unquote business side of what you need to navigate through in recruiting at that level right now. Even the recruiting part alone, just being a national recruit, being a highly recruited kid, my best advice to anybody would be to control it to some degree, because I think it can be overwhelming even for the athlete, for the kid sometimes. He did a great job, but at the same time, there were points in there where it's like, you're talking to an OC and a head coach, you're building all these relationships. This is going on all the time, and it can take a toll on people at some point. Sometimes you got to be careful what you ask for. But yeah, there's a lot of different things right now in the recruiting process for elite guys that, parents need to be aware of. And I really don't think we have enough formats out there, you know, to prepare them for that right now, you know, and that's the interesting part of it.
Jaden, you talked about just the support from your family going through that difficult process. So Harlen, Roman, how are you guys there? And what kind of ways did you provide support, be uplifting for, your family member, your brother, your son that was going through a difficult situation?
It was kind of hard to watch my brother, at the age of 16, 17, have to make these crazy decisions. And it was frustrating because I know my little brother so well. So that part was difficult, but ultimately it matured him. Like, so it made him like his rate in which like the decisions that he had, like the magnitude of decisions that he had to make matured him now. So I knew that at the time, and I knew that it would make him more mature. And he, so it was difficult in real time, but in retrospect, I think, there was no other way that I'm sure he could speak, but there was no other way that he probably would have wanted it because it did make him stronger. So just, that's what I would say.
Yeah, for me, man, the biggest thing for me is, let's face it, football is a beautiful game. It's something that you're gonna do. You're fortunate if you can play 4 years, a year, if you can go play 10 years in the NFL. But at some point in life, you have to, redefine yourself and, move on in life at some point. So when that happens, to me, it's about family. Your family should be there to support you no matter what at any point in that process, and it's challenging. But I think the biggest thing for me was just being there, trying to be there from a position of support and love, like, and his brothers are going to be different than me as a father, but I think it took all of us, even his mom, his sister, we all played a certain role in our support group. And it was just about keeping that intact, as we kind of went through the gauntlet of whatever else we were going to face in the process. And that's the way it's going to be, at some point football will be done, but your family's your family forever. So that's got to be your solid support group, and if you're blessed and fortunate enough to have good friendships along the way and good people around you, then that's good too. So we just try to stay solid as a family,
So Jaden, Roman, what's it going to be like playing together on the same team at the college level? What are you looking forward to most about sharing this experience together?
It's going to be nothing like it. I know this will be something that we tell our kids about someday. So definitely something that I don't take for granted. Like, going to war with my brother every day in the weight room and going to suit up, on game days. That's going to be nothing like it. And that's a crazy, not everybody gets to experience that. And that's something I can't wait for. And definitely, winning with my brother, along with my teammates, like there'll be nothing like that.
I agree. I mean, I had the privilege of playing with my older brother, Harlen Jr., and it was nothing like that, So when it was time to like make the decision of being able to play with him, that was an easy decision because I know how fun it was, especially winning. But there was a lot of stuff that we could have did better on that team that we were on, me and my brother. Like we could have came together and established some winning habits. And I think like this second time round, I know what that looks like. And he knows what that looks like. So now we just holding each other to that standard and really just using it to our advantage. Like not everybody gets to play with their brother. And that's an advantage, like you don't want to let your brother down like your blood brother. So it's just, again, establishing those winning habits and obviously winning. Nobody likes losing.
So obviously you guys have been playing ball for a number of years. And so, as brothers, what is your favorite football moment, whether it's a play, a single game performance of the other that you can remember?
Yeah, for me, Roman, his story is different than mine, so I grew up, always, using my two older brothers as role models, no matter, how old I was. And I remember, I think my football moment for Roman was like when he truly found that love for the game. Cause, he had different interests growing up, and I think like, we were living in Sacramento at the time and I feel like that's when it really, that's when he really fell in love with football. Just seeing him out there grinding, working hard, making sacrifices, driving this far away for this, moving and for this. Like that was my football moment for him because that showed me like, that he was ready to put down whatever, for the game and you know, and that's really what I think shaped him as a man today, like ever since then he's been like one of the hardest working people I know. And that kind of shaped him and helped him out in not just football but life. So that was one thing where I commend him on and that was pretty cool seeing.
I have a funny story actually. So I used to play quarterback, and it was a 7-on-7 team ran by this great man named Coach Hurtado. May he rest in peace.
Yeah.
It believed in my brother. My family really was just a great human being, a great coach, and a great man. Like I want to give him his honor. I think we all do while we're here. But he always believed in my brother, like even before anybody did. So like, I was a quarterback, and so I tried out for this B team of the 7-on-7 team as a quarterback. And they cut, even though my dad was a coach, it was like they cut me. They're like, he's not gonna play quarterback. And I was like, that was fine. But then like my brother, I remember like in the tryouts, he was in like 7th or 8th grade. And like
six or
he was in 6th grade. And he came and like they pulled him in, and it's just like a practice. And he was just lighting up. Like I'm talking like we had dudes with D1 offers on the team, and he was just lighting up the defense. Like they would pull him in when we didn't have a quarterback, and the offense wouldn't skip a beat. And that was a winning 7-on-7 team. And I was frustrated. Like I'm so competitive. So it's like my little brother's a better quarterback than me. Like I was like a freshman at the time. I was pissed off, but like just seeing like how he would just dominate at that level, that was a moment for me when I realized like, all right, how good he actually is. Cause he's always been good at, even baseball, some funny stories of baseball. But that was like for football, that was a moment for me was when like I used to see him, I would be pissed off, but like, I was like, he was just that good. So I remember that was a moment where I realized like how good he could be.
I will say like him talking about that, I remember you guys asked me a question earlier, like when did you think like I created kind of like that separation factor? And I will say that it was probably my 7th grade year. I was at a tournament and I had no clue, like, I was like, I'm about to go in with these high schoolers. Like I didn't even have cleats on. And Coach Hurtado, who he was talking about, it was a coach like who like truly believed in me like before a lot of people did, and it was genuine. He wasn't doing it for anything in return, and like I wish I could have gave him his flowers while he was here because like I'm standing here like right now and unfortunately he's not with us no more, and I never really got to tell him like that was the moment where I kind of like found myself like as a quarterback, like this is what I'm gonna do. And I think that was like a big thing. Like, man, I went down there and he was calling plays and I just like ended up scoring that drive. And, that was like one of my favorite football moments, even though it was like just a 7-on-7. I was just a young dude out there. I remember when I scored, like the whole high school team, like they all picked me up and Coach Hurtado just acted like nothing happened. Like he believed in me more than I believed in myself at the time. And I know it definitely takes a couple people like that, at some point in people's career. And Coach Hurtado was just so genuine, and he helped me out a lot. And he helped me like, find my talent in quarterback, most definitely.
So guys, how helpful has it been through the things you've gone through in the last few years as high school players, recruits, college student athletes? How helpful has it been to have a dad who played major college football?
Yeah, it's been real helpful. He knows the business of it all. He knows the business through it all and kind of experienced it. So just going in there, not just going in with a heads up is always helpful. You know what you're walking into, and you know what it takes. And and he kind of preaches to us, work right now, like work right now, go 110% now, so you don't have to later. And I know he's telling us that off of experience, and that definitely helps. We learn from all his rights, and we learn from all his wrongs, and that's, nothing more you can ask for from a father, than to tell you the goods and bads, So just going in there, knowing what it takes, and that's pretty helpful to me.
Yeah, it was extremely helpful. Like, just going JUCO, I had the privilege of getting coached by his coach, John Beam, who coached my dad in high school. So just like
Last chance you.
yeah, just navigating through like all that. But even my story, like high school, playing at so many different high schools, like he just always kind of equipped me to like be prepared in each situation, like how I can do the best with the cards that I was dealt. And ultimately I think that's what made me like the mental aspect of the game, like, is I give a lot of credit to him, is just being resilient, and knowing what it comes with, fighting through experiences on the field, injuries, or just new programs, just, so it was extremely helpful. I don't know how it would have looked, without our dad. So
We should have done this on Father's Day.
And was that your birthday?
It was.
Well, happy belated birthday.
Thanks, man.
Did they take care? I mean, you got
Yeah,
you got the double
yeah.
birthday Father's Day combination. That's not easy.
I
Man.
know, right? It's easy for them though.
Right? Yeah, 2 for 1.
But no, it was cool.
Yeah.
I just had my sons, and my other son flew in, and we got to just hang out and lay low. I mean, I'm getting older, man. All you want now is just peace. It's not about,
man.
Roman got him a pack of jelly beans.
All right. Like, hopefully
he got me some cigars. That was cool.
Okay, that's good too.
I mean,
right on. There you go.
He got me some cigars. And
he got him a box. He brought a box of donuts to the house.
Donuts and jelly beans, a cigar. Hey, you know what?
Sounds like a good afternoon.
I'm a simple guy, man. That'd be a good day to me. Yeah.
He actually gave me a real cool gift too. He gave me like a 101 card he got from his QB retreat thing.
Oh, that's cool.
To put in, and I thought that was pretty cool. But there's no gift. It's how guys are, man. We get weird when you give us a gift. We're like, yeah, cool, thanks, but it was just a time, man. I spent half the day like getting ready for them to come over, and we grilled a bunch of stuff and just kind of hung out, and that was all it is, man. It's just another day to lay low.
So Harlen, when it became clear that your boys were going to be able to play college football, how did you draw upon your personal experiences to guide them through that process of going, not just through the recruiting process and finding the next in the college program, but also, once they are at their college as student athletes, and just, try to help them guide through that process and through your own experiences?
We'll probably start with the recruiting process. It was so different, but even though things are different, some things are the same, like relationships, you're going to go on so many visits, what to expect with people, you get in the room, all that kind of stuff, and, but probably like the game, and, it's really, they got to walk their own walk, and it's a different time, there's a lot more things on the table now than there were back when I played. But like I said, some things stay the same. So it was just always, kind of trying to let them know kind of what to expect, or, what the next level might be. It's a different jump he jumped from high school to college. Roman went the JUCO route, and there's all kind of different steps, along the way. And so just the main thing for me was always, wherever you go, especially with his situation, like the main thing is the main thing, what's the opportunity for you, what's the opportunity for you to play? What kind of scheme are you going into? Who's the coach? Is he going to be there when you get there? A lot of different things, so I've always kind of tried to keep my pulse on the game now. And even with what I experienced, for what that was worth, just knowing how hard it is and what it really takes, I think it helped a little,
So Jaden, Roman, what's the best football advice that your dad's ever given you?
really the word adversity, like I just remember that a lot coming up, just like I said before, just being mentally resilient, like you're gonna deal with ups and downs from coaching all the way to, like injuries. So just being adaptable. I just remember I remember that concept. I can't remember a certain phrase or anything, but that stuck with me and ultimately crafted me to the position that I am personally.
For me, it was a couple of things that always stuck out to me that he's gave was just it's really simple, but like I kind of take it pretty serious. It's just the whole like hard work aspect, and taking things serious. So that's why I always had the perspective of when you're going and having a meeting with a coach, like make that like a meeting that you're having with a CEO of a business that you're applying, that you want to have a job at, So my thing is just, take it serious and respect the game and work hard, and what you put in is what you get out. So I think that those are like some topics that meant a lot to me and probably carried the most weight on how I try to apply it.
All right, so we'll close out on this, and we'll go down the line, starting with Jaden. 10, 20 years time, what do you want the Rashada name to mean to Sun Devil fans?
I want the Rashada name to mean the world to Sun Devil fans. I want to, like this. I want our last name to never be forgotten, in this stadium. And I know that takes a lot, but I know me and my brother are willing to put in the work and stand on a principle. And we kind of came here with a mission statement, and like we said, like this really does mean a lot to us, like probably more than it would for a kid who doesn't have history with family here. But this means a lot, and I want the Rashada name to not be forgotten here, as not just athletes but as people. I want our names to be on that wall one day, and both of our numbers, and I just want I just want Sun Devil fans to never forget us, not only as athletes but as people, and make sure this is a place we come back and give back, and just make this a place that where our name is never forgotten here.
I mean, I would agree. Like, just we have a lot of plans for like just establishing like like community work, and just like my a thing that was like kind of introduced us when we were growing up was just like how Pat Tillman was, and that was always like what we kind of strive at. I mean, not always, but as we get older, like just striving after like how to do things the right way. A certain level of professionalism you have to have approaching your craft, whether it be football or whatever that is. So just kind of like putting that all together and having that approach to the game. I hope that we can leave that similar legacy of like just doing things the right way. Always treating people with respect. We make sure to, know the people's names that are cooking for us in that facility. All the little things, just being detail orientated, and hopefully that projects into like our talent on the field. But there's plenty of great players that have played for this program, and you don't remember their names because that's not all it is. It's not just what you do on the field. It's how you carry yourself. The people that I remembered are people like Pat Tillman that did it the right way, that were just great human beings. And beyond football, that's the most important thing for I think all three of us. So that's what I would say, is just having that legacy of like being good, stern people who like did it the right way. So,
I was gonna say I had a moment too. Spring ball, I went up to the Santan, deal, and I sat up there, and there was a guy up there who, when the spring game was over with, this took me so long to get down the field. There was a guy this guy had been like a Sun Devil fan, for like, I want to say like 30 something years, man. And he came over to me and a buddy I was standing next to, Demario Vaughn, who played line here. We were sitting there talking. He's like, hey, I want to get your autograph. And I'm like, you don't want my autograph. It's going to make that ball worth less money. And he's like, I'm like, he doesn't even know who I am. He's like, I know who you are. And I'm like, and he gets to telling me about his story, about how, he's been a Sun Devil fan for all these years, and he's seen all the games. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, I'm a fan of his because I'm sitting here kind of amazed at how dedicated this guy is to this program, you know, and how much he's been there and supporting this program for all these years. And there was a moment in there, just, you know, me being my age now, where, you know, the game is done. Obviously, we know that, you know, my sons are coming along. And I was like, you know, this is kind of what it's all about. You know what I mean? It's bigger than you, you know, like you have your time here, you know, and what you do with your time, you know, will determine, you know, how people may perceive you during the time you had here. But it's bigger than you. You know what I mean? Like this is all bigger than you. But when you're young and you're going through that, it's your world. You're only thinking about what you're going through. And, you know, so when I think about like a name, you know, like this will always be bigger. You know, there's a bigger Arizona State football is Arizona State football. It was Arizona State football before me. It will be after me. And there are tons of guys that have came and contributed. The best thing I would like to see is that my kids end up being positive contributors and good people. You know what I mean? And wherever their talent takes them, so be it. You know what I mean? But just knowing that you're a part of something that's actually bigger than you will humble you, you know? And so I thought that experience with that guy, it kind of opened my eyes a little bit, you know? And I just was like, man, like, you know, it's a big deal, you know, being a Sun Devil. You know, there's people all across the world. You got fans for every college you go to. You know, this is where I went, you know. So it's just a lot of respect to just, you know, carry yourself with respect, represent as well. You know what I mean? And people are going to have a good opinion if you do good things, you know, and that's really it, you know?
Yeah. And yeah, I think all you have is your reputation at the end of the day. So, you know, and your last name is a big part of your reputation. And a big thing is, you know, like he said, never, you know, you're never too big for anybody. So that's how Roman said, you know all the people cooking your food, you know, we get to know the janitors' names, you know, like I mess around with them every day. But at the end of the day, like just being somebody remembered as a good person is most important, because football will end one day. No matter what records you put up, they'll be broken one day, you know? So I think being remembered as a good person, you know, like how Pat Tillman was, you know, like I'm sure there was better safeties, you know, that came through the NFL, but his name is going to be always remembered because of the person he was and what he was willing to sacrifice. And I think, you know, that's somebody I look up to as far as how you want your name to be remembered.
Sure.
Gentlemen, sincerely, we thank you for spending some time with us here today. We're honored that you chose to tell your story with us here. And man, I'm sure Sun Devil fans are going to be through the roof, fired up for the future of Sun Devil football. And I'm glad that we're able to see this side of the Rashada family and learn all about you here today.
Appreciate you
one
guys.
legacy
Thank you
to
guys for
another,
having us.
you know, right? I hear a lot of pops in you over there too.
There you
man.
go. You know, I appreciate that. That's a true compliment if there ever was one, my man.
Yeah, appreciate you.
And that's going to do it for this very special episode of Speak of the Devils. I'd like to thank our amazing guests, Harlen, Roman, and Jaden Rashada. Make sure you stay with us on the social media side of things. Joe and I have some very cool plans for some content coming up in the weeks before fall camp gets underway, and a couple of very interesting news announcements that you'll want to stay tuned for. And to do so, give us a follow on Twitter at SOTD Podcast, on Instagram at Speak of the Devils. You can find us on Facebook, and you can give me a follow on Twitter and Instagram at bdenny29.
And I got to echo what Brad said. A huge thank you to Harlen, Roman, and Jaden Rashada. We've been doing this thing for about 12 years now, and it really doesn't get any better than that. That might be the best show that we've ever done, if you ask me. And a huge shout out to our amazing sponsors who make all of this possible. Of course, DeFalco's Deli, Cactus Sports, DevilsDigest.com, Jones Auto Group, Spaghetti Shack, and Sun Devil Family Charities. And oh, by the way, if you'd like to follow me on social media, I'm on all the things at Joe Healy 42.
And when you're done supporting our amazing sponsors, make sure to drop us a 5-star review on the podcast platform of your choice. Joe and I will be back soon with some more great stuff to get you a little bit closer to Sun Devil football.